Hello again. Have you downloaded the resources for this module? You will notice that I have included a few more zip and chain brushes for you. I'm sure you can now see the endless application and iterations of the pattern brushes you can create. In this lesson, we will look at the scatter brush and its properties. This brush is great when we want more control over the spacing and size of the brush design. It is perfect for overlapping motifs like a sequin or different size motifs more randomly scattered like the jewel brush in my second demonstration. I'll first demonstrate the sequin. Colorization options remain the same as the pattern brush, but in the scatter brush we have more options with size, spacing, scatter and rotation. First of all, when I create a scatter brush, I draw my brush design, load it, and apply it to a line, and then change the options. The sequin design itself is simple enough. I'll draw an ellipse, 6 mm by 6 mm. I'll draw a smaller ellipse for the hole, and I'll delete the hole from the sequin with the Shape Builder tool. I'll colour this with a mid-grey and a black stroke with a line profile on it for added dimension. Select this and make a new scatter brush. Don't change the top 4 options just yet. I'll just change the rotation relative to option and I'll do path. I'll show you the difference when I do the other options. I'll draw a curved line and apply the sequin brush. Now for the options. I'll check preview before I start. Size. Depending on what you want, for example, if I want to do something similar to this D&G slide, I would keep the size fixed. Spacing. Sequins usually overlap each other like fish scales, so I will make this 60%. Scatter. This will depend on the finish you want. Rotation. I usually don't do this for a sequin. Have a look at how this looks if I change rotation relative to page. This changes the angle of the brush and it looks quite unnatural. So, that's the sequin. I'm going to demonstrate how we can add a gradient to the sequin. Depending on the finish and the flexibility you want here, there are 2 ways to do this so it is efficient. The first is my preferred option as it gives me more flexibility. I will add a gradient fill to my sequin. Go to Swatch Libraries, open Swatch Library, Gradients, Metals, and select a tonal grey with some good contrast in it. I'll select the silver gradient swatch. I'll quickly demonstrate what happens if I try to make a brush with a gradient fill in it. A warning appears telling me I cannot make this brush. I will need to rasterize or expand the gradient into strips of solid color. I'll demonstrate expand first. First, I'll expand appearance of the sequin. I go to the Object drop-down menu, select Expand Appearance. This turns the stroke into a fill. Once that is done, I can select the sequin and expand the gradient. I'll go to the Object drop-down menu, select Expand, not Expand Appearance. A dialog box will open, and I can expand the fill with the option to expand the gradient to specified. I have 20 colors in here, which gives me a nice smooth gradient. Once this is done, I create my new brush as before. This is the result. I will demonstrate the rasterize option when I do the Gucci trim. Now the jewel scatter brush will incorporate more of the options in the scatter brush. I'll first draw my jewel using the polygon tool. I'll click onto the work surface to open the polygon options and create a polygon with 8 sides and a 3mm radius. Using the line tool, I'll draw lines from one side to the other, crossing over at the center. I'll use these lines to divide the polygon into shapes in different shades of grey and group them. Now I make 2 more copies and rotate and scale each a little smaller and change the combination of greys. The final top polygon will be white, and I am ready to create my jewel scatter brush. I select it and create a new scatter brush with tints and shades as the color option again. I'll quickly draw a line to edit the brush. Remember to rotate the line relative to the path. With the other 4 options, I am using random, not fixed. I now have the option to adjust both sides of the scale. I'll keep my line selected and adjust each option until I'm happy with the outcome. That is the jewel scatter brush. Again, once I apply it, I will need to make further adjustments. While I'm here, I'll also make a quick pattern brush with the jewel too. I'll be using this in the chain trim art brush in lesson 4. In conclusion, I like to use the scatter brush for trims that are random, like the jewels. It is a great way to make the jewels look scattered without too much effort. And of course, you cannot go past the value of the spacing, not only for the overlapping sequins, but also for applying studs to a clock, for example. You can measure out the studs you require. Really useful. In lesson 3, we will look at more complex pattern brushes and take a detailed look at color and color changes. Please feel free to ask questions or write comments in the space below.